El the Alchemist here with an awesome guest, Dr. Mulder, aka the man, the myth, the legend. And we're going to talk about radionics today. And I'm so thankful to have you on. How are you doing today, Dr. Mulder?
I'm doing great as always. How about you there, my young friend?
Oh, man, just kicking and screaming, going towards the goals. Doing great, man.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, like I said, today basically all I was doing is just making parts. I mean, every single day I'm building machines. If I'm not building a machine, I'm making parts to build more machines. There's always something to do in this job. Being basically a one man show. So I'm constantly out there, doing stuff. What can I say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been really fascinating and really cool going down the rabbit hole of radionics because as have grown more, as you grow more conscious, you realize you don't know as much as you think you know. And seeing radionics next to kind of what I was used to, ritual magic, and just seeing the extent and being able to break the word limitations just now with something that's a device that's from the future. It's definitely something that's badass, and I would love to hear your 101 description of what radionics is.
Radionics. Well, me personally, the way I look at it is it's a tool. It's a tool that interfaces consciousness with reality. And what I look at radionics basically as, I mean, there's other ways of doing this, like through candle magic, sigils, the kind of things that J.S. Garrett does, the kind of things that you do besides radionics. It's just a way of hacking into reality and making reality do the things that you wanted to do, or make reality do things that it normally would not do. Okay,
Mhm.
I just look at it as a tool. It's not a magic box. You're the magic. All this is just just an interface between you and physical reality.
And so, like the way I see it as a physical construct is a box that has crystals that are all connected and wired to a certain frequency. So once you're done dialing in with your thought form, your energy into the box, and then you attune the dials, when you turn on that electricity, it's basically the manifesting power implementing that frequency like a sonar into the universe to bring forth your manifestation. Is that?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I'll tell you how I got really when I came to my conclusion. Well, this is just again my opinion of how I think these things works. I mean, you could talk to 20 different people and get 20 different ideas or 20 different opinions as to why this stuff works. It's just me. I set a machine to, because that very question kind of stumped me, because I'm thinking, if I'm going to build these machines, or I'm going to present these to the general public, and you have somebody ask, well, how the hell does this stuff work? I mean, is there like some kind of scientific explanation for this, or are there any experiments, whatever, that can back up what you're trying to do? And that question really made me think. And so what I did was I set a machine to find out the answer as to why radionics works. In about 2 weeks, I saw this video, and it was about the double slit experiment. I don't know if you've heard about this. It's like a major experiment in quantum mechanics and quantum physics. And basically what it says is that when matter is not observed or measured, it behaves like energy. In other words, it doesn't really behave like matter. It's just it's just unregulated. It exists, but it doesn't exist. It's just energy. But when it is observed and measured, it goes back to behaving like matter again. So it's kind of like if the tree was to fall in the forest, will it make a sound? Well, if there's nobody or nothing there to witness that falling, according to them, apparently it doesn't make a sound. If that makes sense. Okay. And so, but again, this is what I'm looking at here, and I kind of have it. It kind of gave me another conclusion that basically reality is not physical. I mean, what we're looking at here is a holographic universe. It's a hologram. We're basically avatars or characters in a video game. All right. They even have scientists now who are saying that it looks like we're part of a program. It's all based on zeros and ones. And I don't know. I can't say yes or no to that, but I will say that yes, in my humble opinion, the reality is very fluid. You can change it both in the past, present, and the future. And I've seen it happen all the time. You know, many examples. Like the thing that really got me, that kind of sealed the deal for me, was the Mandela Effect. I don't know if you and I were discussing this the other night.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, where things physically change from the way we remember them, and everybody can say, "Oh, you're mistaken. It's a confabulation. You're just, you have your head up your ass. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah."
Mm.
Well, that could be true, but there are other people that remember things the same way I do. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, and so I'm thinking, okay, if I'm crazy, so are they, because they remember the exact same thing I do. But in this reality, the one that I'm in right now, it never happened. It never existed. It's always been the way it is now. And so, if that makes sense. So what
Yeah.
that, yeah. So what that told me was, okay, that means the past is fluid, also that things change. Either that, or we're in some kind of a different reality or a different dimension. You know, it could be a million different things, a million different reasons as to why this is happening. But in my opinion, yes, we live in a fluid reality, and radionics, just to keep, just to kind of wind this down, radionics is a hack into that reality and gives you the power to make things happen the way, to do things that normally they would not do. I
Mm.
hope that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. And I was thinking about the Mandela effect when you're saying with like C3PO and Star Wars. I remember him always being all gold. And then when the new movie came out, he had a red leg. And I remember going back to try to figure that all out. And it's
Oh, yeah,
just
he had a silver
weird.
leg. Yeah, he has a silver leg. Yeah, in this reality, he has a silver leg. I think it's his right
Silver.
leg. Yeah, from the kneecap down, it's silver.
Yeah.
It's always been silver. And I have a good friend of mine. His name's Mobius. And if people are familiar with Joshua P. Warren, Mobius is his tech guy. He's the guy that does all his tech work. If Josh has some kind of special project, he's the first guy that Josh calls, say, "Hey, I need you to build this and this. Can you make it happen?" And he's an engineer on top of that, so that's what he does.
Hmm.
And but the thing was, he was a Star Wars fanatic. He was a nerd, a Star Wars nerd. Okay, this guy knew everything about Star Wars. He built the models, the whole nine yards. And he says he knows for a fact, he will swear in court that's that the that robot there was completely gold from head to toe. There was no silver
Mm.
leg, none. Okay, it's always been gold in his mind. When he saw the movies, he seen them hundreds of times, yada yada yada, and he knew, just memorized it in the whole nine yards. And so that right there, you're right. That's one of the examples of the Mandela effect or reality changing. Now, my question is why? Okay, why did it change, and how did it change? But it's
Mm.
changed. Mhm.
Yeah, and there, see, I always think it comes back to that control, and the reason why I am kind of on the path that I am on is because there's a narrative that we're trying to be constrained and told about the person, and I think that it's like a cause for limitation for the human being, like no, you're just supposed to just 9 to 5, this, that, and the other, and ancient history, this is the way it was versus the things that really happened and the cover-ups and just kind of this whole control. And so I feel like radionics is exactly kind of like that, getting your power back to
Mhm.
be able to use that. Plus, it's like if we now know about it, then they have obviously known about it and have been using it against us. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, war is war. Like, are you going to do the same thing and kind of keep up on the same basis? Or are you going to, sit and complain and let that toxicity grow inside of you? Like, I find that to be a beautiful way for expression, whether it's with ritual magic, with radionics, or just like I said before this call, I grabbed my box, just put my hand on it and just attuned it myself, just for
Right.
whatever.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and funny you mentioned that because I was talking to a gentleman. It was a client of mine, and he was on the other side of the world. He had moved from there from Russia. He lived in Russia during the Cold War, and he said that the Russians or the Soviet Union had devoted an entire wing of a major technical university just to radionics and psionics, and that was
Oh
for
wow.
the reason against us or against the perceived enemy, us, and
Yeah.
and we were doing the same thing. I mean, if you've probably seen the movie, they kind of didn't really delve into it so much, but kind of gave you a clue as to what we were doing. was the movie Men Who Stare at Goats. And that movie really kind of opened things. It kind of shows that it showed that, okay, yes, we had a bunch of guys that were training them to psychically stop a person's heart from a distance, remotely do
Mm.
that. Or it kind of, sure, it was Hollywood and that kind of a thing. Let's see, I think the one of the guys I met who was one of the not really a pioneer. I guess he would be considered a pioneer of that program. Was Dr. John Alexander. I think is his last name, Alexander. I met him out in Las Vegas, and he had worked with the U.S. Army, and this is pretty much open here. I'm not, giving away any secrets. But yeah, exactly. And he was working with the Army, and he was one of those guys that they were referring to, in, with that movie Men Who Stare at Ghosts. And so
Hmm.
he said, yes, it is real. Yes, we did try to do this kind of stuff, try to go to war with our minds and that kind of thing. And even Chuck will tell you that during the Cold War, he was doing similar things with radionics. And
Wow.
so, oh yeah, and so it's just it's really a very interesting uh, you know history of what's going on with this stuff. And and again, the more I learn about it, I think you were kind of hinting to this. The more I learn about it, I realize there's very few limitations. I think the physical limitations are basically there's no such thing as immortality, physical immortality.
Hmm.
Um, you can't fly like Superman, that kind of a thing, or climb up a wall like Spider-Man. I mean, maybe you can,
Once we
but
get the genetic upgrades.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I think we're working on that right now, aren't we?
Oh, for sure. Hyman programs, my God.
but yeah, once you get in that kind of a thing, yeah, there are certain limitations to it, but I think a lot of things people can do. Like I said, you and I were discussing weather anomalies, using the stuff to mess with weather. I,
Hmm.
I did a interview with a gentleman. We're going to upload the show here probably the next few days. He and I were discussing this very subject on our show. Is the Dr. Liz and Mulder show? You'll see it on YouTube. Just type up Dr. Liz and Mulder, and you'll find it.
I'll link it
But
down below.
yeah, yeah, okay, cool. And yeah, we were talking about this very same subject, and his little experiment was to make it rain in Southern California. Now, if people will monitor the weather in Southern California right now, it's a little wet. It's been a little wet. It's the deserts are starting to get flooded, so to speak. And does he have anything to do with this? Is this because of his experiments with radionics? Who knows? It could be just a pure coincidence. That's all it could be. And I had another experiment too, and I pretty much documented everything I probably, every, the best I could. I was trying to make it snow in Kuwait, and especially Kuwait City, and on Christmas Day, I wanted them to have a white Christmas in Kuwait City. Well, here's what happened. On the 25th, it didn't snow. On the 26th, it didn't snow. But on the 27th, they got a winter snowstorm, and they had the snow, they had hail, they had rain, the whole 9 yards. And they said the headlines was first time in recorded history is it snowed. No, that's not true. It's the second time in recorded history it snowed. The first time it snowed in Kuwait was January the 28th, 2016. January the 28th, 2016. You pick this up. And this was a practical joke. Dr. Liz was deployed over in Kuwait, and I wanted to mess with her because that's just the kind of guy I am. And so so I decided to do like a weather anomaly, and sure enough, it snowed, and she did witness it snow, and that was the first time in recorded history was in 2016. So, but the point of all this is just little old me, this guy out in California. I mean, we're just guys tinkering with machines, right? And we're able to to do quote unquote acts of God by turning machines. Could this just be a giant coincidence? Could this have happened without us doing anything? Sure, it could have. But I'm just saying, this is what we wanted. This is the end results.
And it's like scientifically, in a sense, you're recording things. Like I've had 3 for 3 with any weather anomaly that need to be done. And like one of them was the whole week. It was supposed to thunderstorm on the day of the Spartan race. and it's supposed to, as every day went forward, it just said 100%, 100%. And like one friend was like, "It's not gonna happen." I was like, "I bet you it will," and he says, "No, it's not." So day of in the morning, I grabbed my machine, and it's thunderstorming and everything outside. I got the machine, dialed it that I wouldn't have one drop of rain hit me. We're driving, it's an hour away, it's still raining. 30 minutes away, still raining. 15 minutes away, no rain. We get there, not one drop of rain came, and they were going to cancel the event. When we got there, they made us all wait in a circle. They're like, it was supposed to be a huge storm all day, but for some reason, it's not going around us. When I looked at the radar earlier, right when it hit over the town, it all disperses around and keeps going forward. And so that's why I believe it to be that pulse wave sonar, you know, because there's nothing else that could made that possibly happen. And even we had supposed to have a winter storm, put it in for 6 inches. We ended up getting super hardcore winds, and it got really cold, but not one thing of snow came down. So it's just like it's just like you said, anyone can do it. It was just as easy as grabbing the box and putting on the input plate, that copper plate, sun, and then as I'm dialing it on the output, I'm just visualizing a blue sky. And it didn't even go blue sky one of the times. It just didn't snow, you know? So I was like, that's all I cared about was like seeing the roads, not trash. Because I also do a delivery job, so I'm like, I'm not trying to deal with any of that, you know. Santa, whatever. But yeah, it's really been pretty mind blowing. And then kind of seeing if you can do that as the projection upwardly, then can you also do it downwardly? Whether that's on a location, a house, whether that's the sun energy, whether that's Raphael's healing energy, or a special entity, or whatever, and starting to do those type of research experiments. And I'd definitely like to hear kind of some crazy stories, or your favorite story, kind of how you're able to use a radionics box to do an exorcism of a property, because that's mind-blowing, fascinating.
Oh, really? Well, I don't know if this is really an exorcism of a property. I could give you a story about a woman who had a really nice house. It was right next to a golf course, and she said, "Hey, I've had this thing up for months. No offers, whatever. I'm trying to sell this house. Uh, there's nobody's ticket. I mean, nobody's even dropping by to check this thing out." And I said, "Really? I tell you what, give me a picture of the front of the house, give me the address, and let me see what I can do." So what I did was I took a machine, printed a copy of the picture of the house and the address, and then next thing I did was take a picture of Saint Joseph. If you look up Saint Joseph, I think he's like the patron saint of carpenters or something.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and so what I did was, but here's the thing about him. Realtors will take, if they have a house they're trying to sell, they'll take a statue, they'll go down to their local Catholic supply store, get a statue of St. Joseph, go to the for sale sign, and dig a little hole right next to the for sale sign and bury the statue upside down, head first, okay? And then after that, they'll say like a little prayer. And for whatever reason, that sells houses. Well, all I did was take that picture of St. Joseph, along with the stack of the house and the address, and I tuned for the machine to sell. Okay. After I tuned it, all I did was take the picture of the house only. I left St. Joseph on the copper, but I took the picture of the house only, put that on the output plate, which is the plastic plate of the machine. And he's going to show y'all the machine here pretty quick, so you'll get an idea what I'm talking about. And so, and that's all I did. And within 2 weeks, she got an offer for the house, and I think 2 weeks later, that house was sold. She was at a closing. They closed the house within 1 month. Like I said, within 14 days after I turned the knobs and set that machine for that house to sell, she gets it off. 2 weeks later, apparently everybody qualified for the mortgage. And they go to the lawyer's office and close the house.
Yeah, it's something as simple as putting out that intention and then just letting it go, as simple as putting it into the machine like that. And I was doing a area of the biggest slaughterhouse here in the United States,
Uh-huh.
And I remember hearing you telling, like, if I printed out the aerial view on a map on a satellite, circled it, and then took all that essence of the slaughter and then on the input, and then the output is to make clear roads on, like, for me, I have it for no issues along with the production of what I'm doing with my show. So something
Mhm.
that's hardcore, that's bad, that's happening, transmuting that into something really positive and to go forward. And like there's not been any obstacles staying now kind of in front,
Mhm.
with communication or people showing up or whatever the case is. And it's just crazy because it just feels as if I like that word limitation just because you can use it for anything. Having a construct with your vampire box, having the sun, and then just building a thought form of a flask. I mean, I've been doing this for a group ritual, and I've been collecting energy now for probably half a year,
Mhm.
just so the sun into this construct, and I can truly feel it on that astral realm and how much energy things collect and how from the electricity here goes into that realm. It's fascinating on kind of the endless things you can do with it. And I
Mhm.
was actually wondering with the hunter killer system, did you ever have as the killer system a war machine? So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I just feel like that would be a hardcore. Like that wouldn't be like stopping an issue from happening, but like if someone tries to start an issue, you're throwing a nuke.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sure, you could do this with three regular machines. I think if you go to JS's site, he discusses this all the time. About the hunter killer system,
Yeah.
sets it up, and yeah, I've used it, with and without the war machine. But I'm going to give people a little idea here about the war machine. The war machine is basically a weapon. Okay, and what it's set up to do is to scramble the energy, to mess up the energy, to kind of I don't know, kind of tweak it in such a way where where the target that's set for the machine every day that there's a gray cloud following them. Every
Hmm.
single day, and my go-to thing on this, and this is like when you want to get hardcore, and I'll give everybody a little inside baseball of what Dr. Mulder would do if he was going after a real, like some like a pedophile or some piece of human debris,
Hmm.
somebody somebody that the world would be a better place without them. Okay, we'll just
Yeah.
go. Okay, what I would do is basically I would get like I went through and got like a collage of all the known serial killers, like their mug shots from like the last 100 years. I think I had like H. Holmes, John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, just the list goes on. All right. And I think what's the Henry Lee Lucas, I think it was. It was like one of the biggest serial killers known. I would get all of them and I make like a little stick a little like 3 inch by 3 inch uh, uh, little postcard or little card that
Hmm.
had a basic collage of all their mug shots. Okay. Next, I would go and take or get it like the pictures, all the front gates of all these Nazi death camps from World War II. All right. That's what I'm saying. Hardcore. All right. And you get all of that and you put those, that's going to be on the input plate. And you have the target on there, with those two cards. You have a picture of the target or the name of the target on the copper plate. Tune the machine for that energy to go toward the target to basically give them a bad day repeatedly over and over and over again. And so,
Wow.
oh yeah, so if you tune the machine, you just take the target only. You put that on the plastic plate. You leave the other, like the mug shots and the gate photos. You leave all those on the input plate and let that
Hmm.
energy go in the machine and amplify itself and get really scrambled and focused and have it get directed, toward the target. And that will mess a person up big time.
Oh God. Yeah, I can only imagine because I had I was reading a couple of Charles Casimano's books of psionics and some entities he worked with in the Goetia. And I decided to test the Andros with the situation on the War Machine.
Mm-hmm.
24-hour turnaround, just literally pure chaos, ridiculous, like to the point where I was like, okay, well that's I didn't realize that was a nuke, you know, like you become humbled so quickly when
Yeah.
you realize how hardcore things are, and then I'm just, you know, now I'm starting to think this year's kind of the year of what can I do to help pull other strings of assholes doing things to us from above, you know, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you
No, where
know,
you're coming from.
exactly. But that's actually kind of a part of the get the H and K, just in case anyone else might be on that level and they're acting like they're dumber. But that's a whole nother thing, you
Yeah.
know. But it's really definitely a different type of warfare and a different type of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Once you kind of hit that level with it, you know, because when I've been working with different spirits, whether an angel or demon, with these machines, it's pretty baffling because the manifestation of their psychic energy in my presence increases. The flow of the energy I can feel towards the manifestation, it's like I don't have any doubt because I know I connected with another consciousness and now they understand the electricity going through this machine is with them. It's like kind of a easier way about working with things instead of worrying about having this dagger doing this, that, the other. It's a cleaner way, and kind of what you talked about that other day. It's like
Yeah.
we piss and shit, you know, versus electricity.
Yeah. You know, and that's what we were going with. I have a good friend of mine who's out of the Los Angeles area, and he had a run-in with some members of Golden Dawn out there. And anyway, so the guy's well versed in dealing with entities, okay, and he has quite a few of my machines, and he told me, he said, Dr. Mulder, these spiritual entities, angels, demons, whatever, prefer to deal with radionics and deal directly with us. And I said, why? It says because it's cleaner, because they look at us as gross, because we're like animals. I mean, to them, it'd be like, even though we don't think we have body odor, to an angel, we stink. You might as well be a wet dog, okay? And you might, and I said, plus they find us gross because we eat, we piss, we shit, have sex. I mean, it's just we just think we're gross, okay? But if you deal with them and use the machines as basically a firewall, and you just set a machine for what you're asking them to do, they prefer that because to them it's cleaner. It's kind of a separation between the animal and the spirit, if that makes sense, between them
Hmm.
and the animal. And yeah, they'll it's like they're getting an email or a text. I mean, yeah, they'll take care of it for you, but they don't have to deal with all the stuff that they find very annoying.
Yeah, yeah, all the extra. Now,
Yeah.
have you well, I guess what's the craziest thing like amount of machines you've plugged in to be able to make a manifestation happen? Because I know it'd be, you know, from input to output, all the way across. And have you
Right.
noticed like is there kind of like a tipping point where it's like it doesn't really matter how much
Uh,
more?
I mean, like to the point of diminishing returns. Is that what you?
Exactly, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would say, um, I probably if you're using more than five. I mean, again, it's my opinion, my personal opinion. I think if you're using more than four or five machines on a particular subject or particular objective, it's probably a little bit of overkill. The way I look at this thing is, yeah, say you have like a major project and you have like different sections, different layers of this project that need to take place in order for this objective to become a reality or to manifest itself.
Mhm.
Yeah, what you could do is just have like one machine take care of one section of the project, like the personnel. One machine take care of the finances of a project. Another picture take or another machine take care of the opportunities for this project to be marketable or be on the market and to
Mm.
produce, and to get out there and and have people notice it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could. That's the way I'd probably handle that thing. In a weird kind of way, it's sort of like the hunter killer, and
Yeah.
yeah, and for people who are not familiar with the hunter killer, basically it's a three machine system. The first machine is the power station. The second machine is the hunter, and all it does It goes out there and constantly seeking a threat to you, whether it's physical, psychological, psychic, whatever it may be, is constantly looking for that threat. Once it finds that threat, then the killer goes into play, and all a killer's job is not to, we just use it because it sounds great, because from the Terminator movies, the hunter killer. But no, all it does is its job is just to neutralize that threat. It may be as simple as something else pops up in their life and they get distracted and they got bigger fish to fry than having to work, deal with you, or they may have second thoughts saying, well, the hell with this, I'll just let them slide. Next, let's go into something else. That kind of, and all it is just there to neutralize that situation once it's been found by the hunter, and that's pretty much how that system works. There are certain people that may need an extra boost, like you and I were talking about earlier, using a war machine, for example, as the killer. But for most purposes, in real life purposes, just a regular 9-dial machine will work.
And does it matter how much you'd have to say like two machines that say sun, so it'd be like double amplifier mentally, or does it kind of like the tops is one machine for the power and then you go for plugging in the other machines, if that makes any sense? Like
well, again, this is something that Chuck kind of gave me the idea, so of hooking these three machines together. And he said, basically what you're trying to do is create a lot of energy for the other two machines, which are actually doing the main job. Okay. Yeah. And that's where the first machine is the power station. And he said, for what he's noticed, that out of all the energy sources for these machines, the sun, or something that represents the sun, seems to be one of the most powerful energies out there in order to work in relation with radionics. So that's the reason why I just say the sun. If there's something else that resonates with the operator that they feel is more powerful, go for it. You don't have to be the sun. It could be a particular entity or what have you, whatever your belief system is.